I'm speaking with Councillor candidate George Boone. George, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I currently reside at 20 Mill Street in Hartland, New Brunswick. I've been born and raised in Hartland. I'm a graduate of Hartland High School in 2002. I graduated from the UMB Business Administration program, and I'm a proud graduate of the Wallace McCain Institute. Today, my father and I own and operate professional carriers in Somerville, New Brunswick. We're a transportation company and provide food and beverage across Canada. Currently employing 63 employees across the Atlantic provinces. And and my volunteer work, I've coached rugby and basketball at the Hartland High School for a number of years, and also been president of the Wildman RFC Rugby Club.
Okay. For the first question, the recently tabled federal budget has earmarked funding for green initiatives. How do you see Hartland benefiting from these funds?
I did look into the infrastructure, Canada, the Natural Resource Infrastructure Fund, where they've dedicated $200 million over the next 3 years. And how I see Hartland tapping into it is having enough green initiatives for our parks and recreation, and also our trail system. I think is a wonderful, valuable resource that has been independently developed to this point, but it could use our support to help connect our trails from the waterfront out in the Beck-Wemmick Trail. Also, given time to mature that, we could look at having an infrastructure similar to Victoria Park in Truro, Nova Scotia, where over time we could have our natural reserves preserved, but also have an access point for our visitors and our residents to go enjoy those natural resources, and they're taken care of over time, and we get to enjoy the beauty for a number of points. The other thing I kind of see that we could do over a period of time is, well, there's small infrastructure changes by moving towards LED lights and things of that through the town, and low flow toilets. The little things always count that can add up over a number of years. And by doing something like that, not only do we affect saving our energy, but we also have cost savings for that helps save the hard-earned taxpayers' dollars that pay into our property taxes. It's a responsibility, a small token that we can take to really make a difference.
Thank you. How would you ensure continued growth and development in the town of Hartland while maintaining a favorable tax rate for businesses and residents?
That really, I think, comes into increasing our population and looking at economic and housing development. In doing so, we not only can maintain our tax base, we might be able to dilute so by adding more residents and more affordable housing. There's a housing cycle for each individual resident as a living cycle. I've seen it play out in my own neighborhood. As one of my residents, he was a senior gentleman looking for an apartment in Hartland, couldn't find so. He was forced to move to Woodstock. His children and grandchildren live in Hartland. By fulfilling that housing cycle and adding more housing, we can not only maintain our property tax, we can increase our overall economic and financial prosperity, adding more tax dollars into the town so that we can utilize it to better benefit the residents. By foreseeing this cycle of housing from a rental income that an individual can take on and a couple, not only going into the first home that they can live in, the starter home, their dream home, and ultimately into their senior living, we can complete that cycle and have lifelong residents of Hartland and not have to have people extradited to find outside housing. A diversity of housing allows to keep them in here a lot longer and also keep that tax money coming in for the lifetime and allow them to live where they want to live.
Thank you. This next question kind of touches on the same thing. Hartland has almost 2,000 jobs in the town, while less than 1,000 people live here. What should the town do to attract more people to live in Hartland and retain the residents we currently have?
Well, number one, of course, as I talked about the housing structure and the development of more diversity in our housing that allows individuals to come in and see their families through the life cycle and also stay as seniors. The other thing I see that we need to do is more engagement with the residents and allow them to live here longer and prosper, to go into increasing our property tax values so we build more infrastructure in the town. That way we can have more systems for people to use, more resources, increasing people to have a better engagement in the town to want to stay here beyond just working. So by allowing us to have more housing, more property tax dollars, we can build more infrastructure so that people want to reside here and they don't feel that they have to extradite outside of our town in order to get the resources that they crave. That's where I kind of see that we do by having a diversity of housing, increase in housing, and investing in sharing the risk of housing structure. Not only putting the burden on the developer, but also sharing that risk, giving them a return on their investment, and incentivizing them to finish those developments in a timely manner. Right now, we have our biggest housing boom we've ever had with a number of people moving in. We also have the availability of remote work. So people are looking to move to areas where they can access this, have space for their family to grow. And if we do so and take advantage of this while this boom is happening and incentivize that development, we can take advantage of that opportunity in a quicker manner and have more residents live here.
And the final question, how do you see the development of recreation facilities and tourism establishments in Hartland? And how would you balance that spending with transportation and utility infrastructure needs?
The development of recreation and tourism is something that's near and dear to my heart. I spent a lot of time in recreation in Hartland, playing on a number of teams, being part of softball leagues, ball hockey leagues, also being chairs of those leagues, president of those leagues, helping to create a recreational facility. I'm extremely excited about the community complex. I see the complex as being a facility that not only serves a recreational purpose, but we have opportunities within that complex to provide culinary programming, to provide artistic programming. It needs to be a complex that serves the entire community. In that regard, if we maximize that and create alternate revenue sources, the complex can live on its own and sustain on its own, and also be prosperous on its own. So by bringing a diversity of programming and activities into that complex will allow it to function individually. That will allow us to take other resources that we used to traditionally invest into our recreational facility and allow it to allocate to other places in infrastructure to make us more sustainable and allow us to focus on those projects and diversify our spending other than that one means to attract more residents. The other thing I see in tourism is increasing more of the waterfront, looking to develop that. Along if we increase our population base, that allows us to attract eateries, sustain those on our own. We really need to take our place where we can increase the time spent in Hartland to generate more revenues in Hartland. Right now, we have a limited amount of resources to keep people occupied while they're in town. So therefore, they walk the bridge, they come in and out, they look around and say, what do I do next? We need to give them more facilities so that they can stay engaged, more activities they stay engaged, a number of programming so they spend more money here. That'll allow us more revenues and allow us to put our spending towards other places for infrastructure so that we can diversify that spending once again, rather than focus on two primary things that serve a smaller source.
And now would you like to say some closing remarks?
Sure. Something I think I bring as a councillor, I represent a new generation of leaders and residents in our town that maybe have been a little underserved, not underserved, but also underrepresented. I want to be a leader in that regard of a new generation of people that have new ideas. Oftentimes I hear that when people come into Hartland, there's nothing to do. Well, we find lots to do. There's a charm to Hartland. There's many stories to tell about Hartland. If we can find a way to communicate those stories and that charm to the outside world, we can attract more people into our community. That I think is a big part. Communication comes cheap now. There's a number of venues, social media. Being able to tap into that and communicate to people the charm of being here, I think really allows us to bring in a diverse group of residents, increase our population base. Also my education at Walsh McKay Institute taught me a number of different strategic planning, management, and execution of those plans. That is something I want to bring, not only brought to my business over the past 15 years, and we've been successful. We've had a 400% growth in our business since the time we started. I want to bring that growth, that excitement, those plans, and that work ethic to the town of Hartland to represent them and see through these 4 projects, take our baseline that we're at now and increase it into that growth model that everyone wants to see. I think it needs a new spark for a new generation, a fresh perspective on leadership, and I want to be able to come in, learn, contribute, and provide that for our residents.